So hello students, in my previous lecture I had told you about crystal imperfections or crystal defects. I explained in detail what are the various type of crystal defects. Now we come to the next part of it, electrical properties of solids. Electrical properties of solid refers to the behavior of a solid towards electrical current, and on the basis of conduction of current, solids are classified into three categories: conductors, insulators and semiconductors. So conductors are those substances in which flow of electric current is observed very smoothly. They allow the passage of electric current through them. Insulators are those substances through which no electrical conductance is observed, through which electricity doesn't passes. And finally, there is a intermediate situation between these two extremities, through which electric current is passed partially, which allows partial passage of electrical current through them, and these substances are called semiconductors. So solids are classified into three categories. One, insulator. Second is semiconductor, and third is conductor. Now, flow of charge is called as current, and this charge is either carried by electrons or it is carried by ions. So on the basis of charge carriers, these conductors are classified into two categories. One is called electrolytes and other is called electronic conductors or metallic conductors. In electronic conductors, charge is carried out by electrons, while in electrolytes, charge is carried by ions, positive charged ions or negatively charged ions. Say for example, if we take NaCl, so the crystal of NaCl consists of Na plus Cl minus, Na plus Cl minus, Cl minus, Na plus, Cl minus, Na plus. That is how these constituent particles, these sodium plus and Cl minus ions, they are present. Now in solid state, they are present in a fixed geometric shape and they are in a fixed position. In solids, particle movement is not allowed. Particles can only vibrate along their mean positions. Thereby, they are not allowed to move. So in solid state, it does not conduct electricity. But once it is dissolved in water, what happens? This crystal structure is broken, and these Na plus and this Cl minus ions, they are free to move. And since they are free to move, so they move from one place to another place, they carry the charge and electrical conductance is observed in aqueous solution state or in molten state when this crystal is broken. So these type of conductors in which charge carriers are ions, they are called electrolytes. They only conduct electricity when they are dissolved in water. In routine condition they don't conduct. In solid state they don't conduct electricity. And these electronic conductors are those conductors in which charge is carried by electrons. They are also called as metallic conductor because this type of conduction is largely observed in metals. So, and they conduct electricity both in solid state, in molten state, in all the conditions. So, on the basis of electrical conductance, solids are classified into three categories: insulators, which do not conduct electricity. Electricity doesn't passes through them. Then semiconductors. Semi means partial. So, which conducts electricity to some extent. Partial conduction is observed. And conductors are those through which electricity passes with ease, and they themselves are of two types: electrolytes and electronic conductors. Now, how this behavior, this conducting behavior, this insulating behavior or this semiconductor behavior is explained on the basis of structure of solids. Let us explain one by one. Structure of metallic solids is explained on the basis of electron C model or Drude-Lorentz theory. This theory is based on simple assumption. Metals are those elements which has got a tendency to lose electrons and to form cation. And non-metals are those which has got a tendency to accept electrons and to form anions. So this basic assumption is being made in Drude-Lorentz theory or electron C model, and it is presumed that first of all the metal atoms, they loses their electrons. And forms a sea of electron, and positively charged ions, which are also called as kernels. These positively charged kernels are immersed in this sea of electron or pond of electron in a definite geometrical pattern. And this theory satisfactorily explains most of the properties of metals. So let us understand electron C model or Drude-Lorentz theory. In this theory, it is assumed that metal atom loses one or more electrons to form Mn plus cation, which is also termed as kernel, and n electrons. Then all these electrons, they are uniformly distributed to form a sea of electron or pond of electron, and these positively charged metal kernels they are arranged in a definite geometrical pattern. So this is sea of electrons and this is metal kernel. And because of presence of this free flowing sea of electrons, they conduct electricity. These are the free movable electrons which are able to carry charge from one part to the other part of conductor. Not only this, this model also explains other properties of metals like their luster, sonorous nature, malleability, ductility, and conduction of heat by them. Say for example, we supplied some heat at one end of this metal. So the heat supplied to one end of this metal is uniformly distributed to the electrons which are present at one end, and energies of these electrons are increased. So their kinetic energy also increase, and they start vibrating, they start moving and colliding with other neighboring electrons. And during these these collisions, energies are transferred from one electron to another, and that is how heat energy supplied to one end of a metal transferred to the other end. These electrons, when they absorb energy from the visible region, they get excited, and once they come back to their normal, to their ground state, they emit a particular type of light, they emit a particular type of frequency of energy, and that is how they offers luster. Now once force is applied, these layers of metal kernels, they can slide over each other, and that is how these metals, they show malleability and ductility. Now what happens if temperature is increased? Then conductance of metallic conductors decreases. With increase in temperature, conductance of metallic conductors decreases. Why this is so? When temperature is increases, heat energy is supplied to the conductor, and this heat energy is uniformly distributed among electrons and these metallic kernels that are present inside it. And that because of this increase in energy, these metallic kernels, they start vibrating at a faster pace, and they creates hindrance in the flow of electrons, and conductance is decreased. So I am quite sure that by understanding this electron-C model, you are able to understand that why metals are good conductors of electricity, heat, and other properties or the typical properties of metals like luster, malleability, ductility is also explained on the basis of this theory. This theory also satisfactorily explains that why increase in temperature decreases conductance of a metallic conductor. When temperature is increased, the energy supplied to the conductor is uniformly distributed, and these metallic kernels which are present inside it, they start vibrating at a faster pace, and they causes hindrance in the movement of electrons, and that is how increase in temperature decreases the conductance. Now there is another theory proposed to explain the conductance of metals, or to explain conducting or insulating or semiconductor nature of solids. and this theory is called molecular orbital theory, or in short we call it MOT. So in our previous class, in class 11th, when we was discussing about chemical bonding, therein we have gone through two basic concepts of chemical bonding. One is called as valence bond theory and other is called as molecular orbital theory. What is basic difference between them? Valence bond theory considers particle nature of electron and talk about the concept of orbital overlapping. Therein we say that two atomic orbitals that are half filled, they comes close to each other, they overlap with each other, and their shared electron pair is situated between two nuclei. And that is how the mutual force of attraction binds combining atoms. While in molecular orbital theory, we presume that when two electrons they comes close to each other, two electron waves that combines with each other, and their constructive interference results in the formation of bond. So basic concept is that two atomic orbitals, they combines with each other to form a bonding molecular orbital and to form one anti-bonding molecular orbital. When two electron waves they combines with each other, then constructive interference results in the formation of a molecular orbital which has got lower energy than that of combining atomic orbitals, and destructive interference results in the formation of a molecular orbital whose energy is more than combining atomic orbitals. This is called bonding molecular orbital, this is called anti-bonding molecular orbital. Then electrons that are present in these atomic orbitals, they are filled in these bonding molecular orbitals in accordance with Hund's rule, Abou's principle and Pauli's exclusion principle. Now what happens when these metal atoms they combine with each other? Metals has got very high density, and in very small space very large number of metal atoms are present. So large number of atomic orbitals they combines with each other to form equally large number of bonding molecular orbitals and anti-bonding molecular orbitals. And that is how when these atomic orbitals they combines with each other, thousands of bonding molecular orbitals and thousands of anti-bonding molecular orbitals are formed. And since all these bonding molecular orbitals they have got almost same energies and they are so closely placed with each other, they forms one band. And this energy gap between this lower band and this higher band determines the nature of solid. Electrons are first filled in this lower energy band, valence band, and this is forbidden band, antibonding molecular orbitals band. And if the energy gap between these two bands is large enough, then electrons cannot jump from this band of lower energy to higher energy and substance does not conduct electricity, and this is called an insulator. But in case of metals, what happens? These two bands, they don't have negligible energy band, or they are overlapping over each other, because of which electrons are readily able to move from the band of lower energy to higher energy, and they are conductors. But there is third condition where energy gap is not large. So some of the selected electrons can jump from the valence band to conduction band, and substance behaves as a insulator. So again we understand it. Let me explain it again. That basic concept of molecular orbital theory says that when atomic orbitals they combine with each other, they forms a molecular orbital of lower energy, which is called bonding molecular orbital. They forms a molecular orbital of higher energy, which is called anti-bonding molecular orbital. Now in case of metals, since densities are very high and large number of atomic orbitals they combine with each other, so all these bonding molecular orbitals that are formed, they are closely placed at one place, and this is called a band, valence band, and another is called a band, conduction band. And it is the energy gap between these two bands, valence band and conduction band, that determines the nature of substance. In case of metals, what happens, this valence band and conduction band has got very little energy difference, or in most of the cases both of these bands they overlap with each other. So electrons can flow from valence band to conduction band very easily, and there a very smooth flow of current is observed. So they are conductors. But in case of insulators, this energy gap is large and electrons cannot jump from lower energy level to the higher energy level, and this is called insulator. And if energy gap is in between, then some of the electrons can jump and some of them cannot jump, and the substance is called a semiconductor. So what happens when temperature is increased? When temperature is increased, energy supplied in the form of heat energy is uniformly distributed among the electrons that are present in the valence band, and more number of electrons now with this increased energy they can jump the valence band from valence band to conduction band, and that is how their conductance is increased. So here are two things which you always keep in the mind. In case of metallic conductors or electronic conductors, increase in temperature decreases the conductance, because therein increase in temperature increases the vibrations of positively charged kernels that causes hurdle in the flow of electrons, and that is how their conductance decreases. But in case of semiconductors, if temperature is increased, then more number of electrons are able to cross the energy barrier between valence band and conduction band, and for them conductance is increased. So I am quite sure this discussion has solved, I am able to make the clear electrical properties of solids. In our next lecture we will discuss about magnetic properties. So, by the time, revise the things which I told you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.